Today we're talking about the exercise that is forbidden in all corporate gyms that every skinny PT and 19-year-old NASM certified trainer insists is too risky to even consider for your general client base. We're talking about the behind the neck press. It was a favorite developer of some of the biggest, most jacked, impressive human beings of all time. But for some reason, there is a mythology around it that it will just absolutely destroy your shoulders, take you to Snap City, and kill your fucking gains. And I am here to talk about it. I remember specifically working at LA Fitness when I was 19, and the fat former car salesman who was the head of the sales department for training with no certifications, 40% body fat, and a 125-pound bench press insisted that behind the neck work was responsible for developing a hump on the back of your neck. That's right, behind the neck lat pull downs and presses would build that fatty deposit that is known for sitting on the necks of overweight sedentary secretaries who sit hunched over in front of a fucking keyboard all day. Yeah, it's right up there with going blind and getting hairy palms. Now we're going to get to the bottom of this movement, which is a casualty of modernity, but first, a word from our sponsor. No, not barbell apparel, no, not base strength AI. Today's seminar of Swole is brought to you by Baby Theodore. And yes, this is absolutely an obligatory husband/dad post, and it's probably one of many that I'm going to have to awkwardly wedge into my content in the future. Where do you guys think I'm going when his school starts having him sell chocolate and wallpaper? Door to door? No, I'm coming here. The short is I'm asking you to hit the link below and throw a vote for our baby boy Teddy for the Baby of the Year contest. It is absolutely free to do so, and it supports a very good cause. The contest is a means of raising funds for the organization Baby to Baby, which supplies needy new moms with the essentials: formula, diapers, clothing, etc. Why did Laura want to enter Teddy into this? Because her year spent as a hospital social worker with struggling new moms and families turned her on to this organization, and this is her way of supporting it. But it's also a justification for doing a bunch of cutesy mom reels. Now, why did I want to enter Teddy into this? Because my baby's better. While this contest is made up mostly by kids who have fake names made up by their hippie moms, I gave my son Theodore the namesake of America's most gangster president. And either he earns that namesake by making Teddy cool, or he doesn't and he's forever associated with the fat chipmunk. What I'm trying to say is a vote for Baby Theo is a vote for integrity. Now, Theo and I talked carefully about his platform. If he wins Baby of the Year, he vows to do the following: eliminate handicap placards for obese people, give tax breaks to those who compress their body weight, make bent rows a competitive lift, forever ban sumo. He will also funnel resources that are desperately needed to the field of exercise science, not to fund research, but to give them more barbells and protein so that every PhD maintains a minimum 1,500 pound total. And it looks like we've added a writer for evidence-based influencers to get access to self-defense classes. Justice for Jeff. Long story short, Baby Theo will be a baby for the people. So hit the link below, cast a vote for Baby Theo. Like I said, it is absolutely free to do so. I don't expect anybody to donate, but if you do, it gives him more votes and it is for a good cause. He is in 4th place right now. We've got till the end of the day to move him to the top spot. Now back to what we're here for. Now, I was inspired to move this video to the front of the line because this gentleman, friend of the channel, Sam Sheether, made a passing comment sometime back about how he would like to do a bottom position behind the neck press with 315 one day. So of course I checked back sometime later and he not only did it, he did it for a double and it looked kind of easy. Now, Sam has the distinguished honor of being the only person in the entirety of social media to start a road to video, like road to 300 bench, and actually hit the fucking number. He's done it with a 600-pound bench, he's done it with his 880 deadlift, and he did it with this 315 bottom position behind the neck for a double. And it's a nasty feat, no doubt. He's gonna be knocking on 4 plates eventually. Now, it's not as common to see the great bench pressers of the day really fucking around with heavy behind the neck presses, but if you go back to the time of yore when the biggest men on the planet were clad in denim and plaid and sported a mean taint scrubber, you'll find men taking 8 45-pound plates loaded onto a barbell down to the base of their skull before pressing it back to the sky as if to signal to everybody there's strength and then there's what I'm doing. Ed Cohn's one of my favorites, who competed as a 220, greatest powerlifter of all time, and in service of his almost 600-pound bench press, he did a seated behind the neck with 400 pounds. You also have bench great Ted Arcidi, who is knocking on 700 pounds 40 fucking years ago, and he swore by behind the neck presses. According to him, behind the neck press I cherish as being one of the greatest upper body exercises to aid the bench press. It was a staple of Schwarzenegger, as there's a billion pictures of him killing himself under a behind the neck press, and even in recent years, you had Dmitry Klokov solidify his role as a lifting legend and badass by making popular the difficult variation of a snatch grip behind the neck press that is now dubbed a Klokov press. And of course, he was doing it with just like stupid fucking weight. Now, if you've never felt what it's like to have acid injected into your AC joint, try to do some Klokov presses at the end of your workout for a few sets of double-digit reps and get back to me. You're not going to be able to handle the steering wheel when you get into your car. Now, why you should do it: your elbows are in a position behind the neck similar to a dumbbell press where your arms are out to the side rather than in front. It's similar as the difference between a lateral raise and a front raise. There's just way more of the entire delt used, and that's immediately evident to anybody who's ever tried it and taken the lift into the weeds. There is a much bigger stretch at the bottom, and you can exploit the absolute shit out of it in a way that you can't in a front press. Here's Alex Leonidas using a fucking buffalo bar to really work that damn stretch. I call this behind the necular fortitude. Behind the neck presses also require you to stay vertical, so you can't do the press 2.0 with it. Lean way the fuck back and bring your chest into it like a standing incline press. So if your goal is to put all of it in your fucking delts, it absolutely does that. In short, front presses will get your delts medium well. This shit butterflies them and serves them up charred. So why not just do dumbbell presses? Well, you can do dumbbell presses, but these have an advantage given the fact that it is a barbell. It's stable. You're not trying to negotiate two different things that are doing their own thing. I know you're going to miss out on those ever important stabilizers. I don't know what the fucking fetish is with stabilizers. I've never had somebody come up to me and say, "Hey bro, your stabilizers are on point today." No, I want my shoulders to be as big as fucking mountains, and I want them to lift the moon, and I'm not going to be able to do that if my primary movements are limited by fucking balance. Now, as far as the injury concerns, behind the neck presses are actually excellent for shoulder hygiene. For all the fucking fear mongering about impingement, it's not even obvious that impingement is a thing. The idea is that certain movements cause crowding in the joint, that clamps down on tendons, causing inflammation and a whole bunch of fucking problems. However, there isn't evidence to suggest that the impingement relief surgery is actually better than a placebo surgery. Corrective surgeries don't seem to limit the incidence of rotator cuff tears. The shoulder joint by nature has a ton of fucking crowding in it, and people with smaller subacromial spaces actually don't have greater instances of what you would call impingement or pain symptoms. Now, what will fuck you up is worse function, worse ability to get into and maintain positions, and atrophying from never spending time in a position where you could potentially be building strength and resilience. So bottom line, avoiding movement is not the answer. That is not a viable strategy. However, improving function and strength in vulnerable positions absolutely fucking is. Notice that people are terrified of behind the neck press because of impingement, but given all the videos that abound of people rupturing their pec mid bench press and all of the high school has-beens who insist that benching too heavy fuck their shoulders up, you really don't see anybody skipping bench day, do you? So here's your future. You keep bench pressing, you don't do any behind the neck work, you don't do anything for your shoulders, so it's not until you're lined up for surgery after your fourth fucking rotator cuff tear, until you can't grab a jar off the top shelf without wincing in pain, until you can't get a good night's sleep without waking up 5 fucking times from the stabbing in your shoulder every time you go to reach back and grab the sheet. And in addition to that, you can't fucking bench press anyways, which I guess doesn't matter because after the surgery, you're gonna lose all your fucking gains anyways. But at least you don't have an impingement. So to the pec and front delt dominant lifters who think what you can't see can't hurt you, who also think that this rounded, hunched over mutant position is actually peak human posture, getting them to increase hygiene and mobility by focusing on a movement that will absolutely make their bench better is a fucking home run. Now, if you do have an impingement or you do have a problem where getting into this position hurts like holy hell, don't do it. I am the last person to tell you to fight against tendinitis or to push into ranges of motion that cause actual pain. I know what it's like to push through pressing movements that hurt. It's almost never a good idea. You find an entry point of weight that's light enough that it doesn't hurt. You get a lot of blood flow. You progress slowly so the tissues have time to adapt. And in the meantime, work on stretching, work on fixing the hygiene issues that are putting you in that shitty position that's causing the pain. It's not fucking fun, but none of this is fun. This is miserable. We're all bored in the first world, so we have to go kill ourselves under weight so we feel something besides boredom. So if you're gonna do that, at least make it productive. At least go do something that's gonna fix your shitty shoulders. Twice a day, take a dowel and use it to stretch your rotator cuff and do some single arm hangs from a bar to stretch out your lats. After that, take an empty bar and practice taking it down to the base of your neck, ideally to your traps. You don't want too much external rotation, though with a very light weight, it's fine. And you want to work on being able to take it lower and lower, lower in a more comfortable position. Now, in addition to not having too much external rotation, you also don't want to have to be shoving your head forward to clear a path for the bar like you're bobbing for fucking apples. I actually had a different analogy in there, but I've had some complaints in the comments about people's kids not being able to watch this. So we're going with bobbing for apples. You should be able to stand or sit straight up with your neck in a neutral position and be able to maintain a clear vertical pressing path without your arm folding backwards like the barbell has you in a Kimura and is about to snap your shit up. Now, once you can comfortably get the bar to touch your traps for a few sets without your pecs detaching, and you've realized that this movement isn't going to give you cancer of the deltoids, it's time to do some work. Now, the basic approaches are seated or standing, paused, or touch and go. Standing or seated doesn't really make a big difference here like it does with front pressing. For a front press, I can use a seated variation and really dig into the bench to dick sling more weight. I was using horsecock too much. I didn't want to get a cease and desist from the boog, so I decided to switch my vernacular a little bit. Let's see if this one sticks. But for behind the neck, I still have to sit upright, so any extra stability just kind of goes out the window. So I just bias towards whatever's available, whatever's convenient. Now, pausing versus touch and go, I think pause practice is really good here because it builds confidence and a whole lot of fucking strength in the most vulnerable position where you're not gonna feel strong right out of the gate. And it also requires less weight, which is a good way to maybe limit wear and tear and prevent injury, but either way, it's gonna build confidence. You're gonna get a good stimulus without having to load up the weight day one. Touch and go is great, and I use the shit out of it, but I strongly recommend a very light touch here. I use a very light touch and change of directions on my traps. I bounce the shit out of my front presses because I'm used to it and it's a much more stable position. So this is a nice contrast to that anyways. If you're doing the Mark Rippetoe, bouncing the piss out of your press. When you tear your labrum, don't go crying on the forums, "Oh, athlete X was right all along," because that was your dumbass. Now, like any exercise, there's a billion ways to program it, and instead of giving you some vague, well, it depends on your goals, I'm gonna give you some actual concrete options with set and rep progressions, depending on your circumstances and your goals to help narrow it down. Circumstance number one, you want to incorporate it, but your mobility isn't great. Maybe you've had some shoulder issues in the past, or you're hesitant. No sweat, you're gonna put this movement as a later pressing exercise, second or third after your main movement, and you're gonna do it before you work on the smaller isolation stuff. You're going to spend 5 to 10 minutes doing some of the stretches I featured, your pecs, your lats, your rotator cuff. Those are the big ones you wanna work on, and you're gonna feel fucking great afterwards anyways, so you're welcome for that. And then you're going to bias towards a wider grip and do behind the neck presses standing with a 2 count pause at the bottom. Be very strict here. You're gonna be surprised how quickly it fatigues you. You don't need to do a lot beyond that. Only go as low as your comfort level allows, and then make slight increases in that range of motion over time as you feel comfortable with it. 15 reps. Empty bar, that's what you're gonna do, and it's probably gonna burn like shit before you even add weight. Once you accomplish 15, add 20 pounds and repeat. Do that until you fail to hit 15. Maybe get 10, 13, whatever. That's where you shut it down. You might miss it on the first set. It might be like the 8th set. It doesn't matter. Each time you're just gonna try to beat that number. Eventually, you can do quicker warm-ups. When you're more comfortable, you can spend more sets at the top working weight, and then eventually you can tick the reps down and work in a heavier range, 8s, 6s, whatever it is. This pattern can literally serve you for years. But after a few months of doing 15s, 12s, 10s, just trying to beat the number, you're gonna feel very comfortable. You're gonna be big as shit. And I'm telling you, bro, your shoulders are gonna feel amazing. Circumstance number two, you're focused on either a big ass bench or like a big ass log press or something. And you wanna use this to jack those lifts to the moon. So you're gonna focus on it as a developmental and strength exercise, but in service of something else. Your shoulders, maybe they have a little battle fatigue, but they're functioning, they're here, they're ready to play. Great, you're gonna put this as your second or your third movement after your main pressing movement, but you're gonna focus on acclimating to heavier weights rather than just pure metabolic fatigue. If you're using Bull Mastiff or 70s Powerlifter on the base strength AI, it is super easy to rotate it in. It is a prescribed variation for some people based on their feedback, but anybody can swap it out based on whatever is implemented. All you have to do is follow the progression that's there, let the auto regulation do the rest, and voila, the unholy union of behind the neck pressing with the base strength app calling the shots, telling you what to do, what weight to use, how to modify the volume. That is going to give you shoulders that make you look like an extra from The Hills Have Eyes. People are gonna wanna test you for radiation. Your shoulders are gonna look like they're emitting gamma rays. Now, this is one situation where I really like old school bodybuilding pyramids that start high rep and work up. Now, generally for strength development, you focus on doing your heaviest shit when you're fresh. That only makes sense. But in this situation, this isn't entirely a strength specific movement. You might be a little hesitant. It's good to limit the total load when we can. So by starting with the higher reps, you get a lot of blood in your shoulders, your confidence goes up, you feel good. It's easier to guess what those top sets are gonna be after you've done a bunch of working sets tapering into it. By the time you get there, you just feel good to handle the weight. There's a lot of strength development there, but you're gonna focus so much on general shoulder growth from the extra reps and volume. It's a 1-2 punch. It works exceptionally well. An easy scheme I like, 12, 10, 8, 5, and then drop weight and do a set of 12 or more. All you gotta do is leave 1 or 2 reps in the tank, ballpark it. Don't fixate on the exact rep count because you're not gonna be precise. Just add weight where you can. It's gonna be very organic. I like to focus on adding weight to the high rep sets first before I focus on pushing the heaviest sets, but you'll be surprised how quickly your endurance increases and you're able to add on to those later sets anyways. It's a really good protocol for a basic developmental movement. Now, obviously you wouldn't do this for a peak. If you're like 6 weeks out from a powerlifting meet or a log press max in a contest, but it doesn't matter because you would be doing a more specific pressing exercise than behind the neck anyways. At that point, you're doing pin presses or you're just working on your bench or your jerk or whatever it is. This is a developmental movement. You want to treat it as such, and it gives you a lot of options for sets and reps so you don't have to give yourself a fucking complex about piling on as much weight and hoping your shoulder doesn't snap off. Situation number 3, you see this movement, you like this movement. I want to behind the neck press the fucking world. How do I do that? Well, you're gonna take your favorite main overhead pressing movement, which is probably a push press or a standing strict press, and you're gonna throw it out the fucking window and you're gonna do this instead. I did this last year and I set an all-time PR for behind the neck pressing, and I was doing no push pressing, which is normally my bread and butter, my first workout back doing push presses. I did this 315 for 8 at RPE, throw some more motherfucking weight on there. Now let's say one day is a bench day, the other day is your overhead press day. You're gonna do this as your main lift for your overhead press day, and you're gonna cover a wide variety of reps in the workout. I like a hex progression. It's basically a reverse pyramid with extra steps. Something like a top set of 5, drop back to 3 sets of 8, drop back again, do an AMRAP at 12 or more. You can progress that where you can for many weeks, and then you can taper it down to something like a top 3, 3x5, and then 8 or more. Simple progression, a lot of volume, variety of reps, great way to improve strength, especially when you're not doing a bunch of other different movements. It covers a lot of bases. Now, if you're an absolute fucking maniac, you say benching stupid, I'm gonna behind the neck press twice per week. You can absolutely do that too. I recommend splitting up the reps there, so it's kind of like a volume day or an intensity day or a higher rep and lower rep day. Easiest way to do it is do something like a 5x5 for your low reps one day, and then more of a blood flow volume recovery day, something like a 3x12, and then you do your other shoulder or pressing variations after that. 3 tried and true methods that anybody would be justified taking and using to develop massive, disgusting, Hulk-like deltoids. So let me know what you think, guys. Have you used this lift in the past? Has it given you problems? Has it cured what ails you? Did it make you a fucking monster? Let me know below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to vote for Baby Teddy. Link is below. Until next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you.